takes. Okay. Good evening to everybody. We are again on a Tuesday night, 6 o'clock on a video, and we will discuss about career coach with Anais Poulain. She will she will talk about this profession, and she will be suggesting to students what is the best for them to start working after a degree. Okay, thank you for tonight, Anais, to stay with us. And can you explain a bit about what does it mean career coach and what kind of profession is it?
Sure. Thank you so much, Deborah. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. So I think the first thing I'd like to say about career coaching, the main thing is to start by actually differentiating from career mentoring, because sometimes, the two can be looking alike, and actually there is a slight difference. So as a career coach, my role is to support the people I work with to identify a career they're really 100% passionate about. That's ultimately why I wake up every day and why I do the work that I do. And in terms of how this works, the coaching is all about making sure that I give the space to the people I work with to identify what is it that they want to do. So I'm going to be asking questions. I've got some exercises that help my clients go through to make sure that we go where they want to be. And a career mentor is someone who will be guiding and giving some advice based on their previous experience. So the main difference is there between coaching and mentoring is the fact that I'm mainly giving some space for the people I work with to figure out the answer. And obviously I give them some direction because I've been doing that for some time now, but I don't necessarily directly advise where they should be going based on what they shared with me. Hopefully this makes sense.
Okay. And can you explain how, if somebody would like to start a career, a profession like a career coach, what do you need to do to start after, let's say, after a degree, or do you have a degree like an undergraduate degree that you can start with, or it's something a postgraduate degree?
It's a great question. So the first thing I would say when it comes to people who are interested in becoming a career coach or any type of coach actually is to consider coaching qualification. So this is what I've done. After a couple of years of working, I realized that I didn't want it necessarily to stay in the role that I was in. And this is why I've moved into coaching, because I really love working with people and helping them achieve their objectives. So the one thing I would say to people who want to become a coach is to have a look through the different qualifications that are available to them, because you do have a lot of coaching qualifications out there. And the one thing I would say is to pay attention to making sure that the coaching you are aiming for is actually accredited by either the ICF or the European accreditation. So you want to make sure that if you want to become a coach, you do a coaching qualification that is recognized by international bodies. And the qualification itself is not long, usually is a year, and it does include some practical coaching as well. So that means you will have the theory as to how you can become a coach. So you're going to have some tools that you can use, but you're also going to have some clients that you're going to be practicing with to make sure you can sharpen your coaching tools.
Oh, that's very interesting. But another question is, when you start a career coach, how do you start this job? Because you have to start in a company, you start as independent. How do they know you? I mean, it's a difficult kind of situation. It's not easy because, let's say, there's not yet, as my understanding, a job in a company like recognized by the company. I mean, usually, from my understanding, is the career coach is coming from outside the company and is an independent consultant, for what I know. But maybe there are some other information that I don't have. So if you can...
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I think career coaching as coaching in general has very emerged in the previous 5-10 years. Before that it was something like in a corner that not that many people were going for, and nowadays it's getting more and more embedded in terms of how we function as individuals. Happy to have some support where it's needed in the areas that are needed for a career coach. So for example, myself, first of all, I didn't finished my studies and decided to become a career coach, I started by having a career first. And actually, I've unfortunately had some burnout quite early in my career that, made me question what was my relationship with work and how I wanted work to fit into my life and the type of career that I wanted. So, long story short, I ended up, after a couple of years of working, realized that I needed to do something else. And this is how I came across coaching. I decided personally to start my own coaching business, and I really wanted to focus in not only career coaching, but career transitioning. So, helping the people to really build a career they 100% love and they're passionate about. And the way I go about this, you are absolutely right, is to network with some people so that people can know about me, can know about my services. So it's really one-to-one coaching. And you said it yourself, I'm independent, and this is how I work. Now, when it comes to career coaching, you've got so many different branches. Like you've got career coaching for students. So for example, you've got more and more universities who are recruiting career coaches to work for the university and for the students to make sure that they've got the right support they need, especially towards the end of their studies, to actually identify what's the right career path for them. So that would be, I would say, a traditional way of being employed, but still being a career coach. So you can still work for an entity, in that case, a university. You can work full time for them, but still do your work as a career coach. You also have what I like to call the leadership coaching, which falls under the career coaching umbrella. So leadership coaching is really for people who are in management leadership position. They want to grow in terms of individuals, in terms of how they are as a manager, and they want to grow their career. And sometimes for coaches who are coaching such individuals on those topics, they can, as you said, can be independent consultants. So they're hired by the company, but they don't work directly for the company. They work on a retainer. So they've got like an agreed either number of hours that they can provide to that person, or an agreed package. So I would say you've got the whole spectrum, when it comes to career coaching. You've got people working for themselves directly with individuals. You've got people working with companies based on a retainer or based on a contract. And you also have some career coaches who can work directly for, companies or in that case, universities.
That's very interesting. And another question, do you think it's important nowadays to have a career coach, not like a transition, you said that you are a focus on, but for students that maybe they they study something at the at uni, like undergraduate degree, but usually they know a lot of academic, but they don't know really how works a company. So most of what you think is could be a good idea if somebody is is going to a career coach and find the right path to go through.
I mean, yes, definitely. I mean, I can speak honestly here. I still have my student loan that I'm paying for a master degree in supply chain and procurement, which got nothing to do with what I'm doing at the moment. And I'm more than happy that I took this path. So if I would have the choice 10 years ago, I would have loved to have speak with someone who would just be giving me the space to actually figure out what is it that I wanted and where I wanted to go based on what the market had in terms of opportunities. So I do indeed believe that for any student, if you've got the space, not necessarily directly to speak with a career coach, but at least taking the space, even with someone, in your class or someone that you're studying with, to ask, respectively the question, what is it that you want? Who you are as a person and what you study are important things. And the third important thing is where do you want to go? So anything that you want to do related to the studies that you did or not, but actually take the time to find out where you want to go, not in the sense of what everyone expects of you, but where you want to be as a person.
Yeah, another question is regarding, do you think it's important this when you finish university, or could be interesting also for the students that finish the, let's say, the high school and they are planning to go to uni? Most of the time are part of somebody that knows since they were little they want to be a doctor or an architect or whatever. Most of the students are coming out from the high school and they don't have a clue, and they usually go through difficult time, because maybe the thing that they think they are going to do is the opposite what they are studying. So I just wondering, did you have any kind of student coming to you after high school and asking to be supported by you or not?
I actually remember, yes, I worked with that one person. After high school, she really was unsure, where she wanted to go. So she started the first year of uni, just following like a standard path that her parents were expected of her. So she went through that route for like a year, but she realized it was just not for her, and she had no clue what she wanted to do. She had the pressure of making sure she go through university, but she just wasn't sure. So the first step that we took together was not only to look at potential universities and classes that could work for her, but we also looked about what it would bring to her. Was it bringing her a certain level of, knowledge, accomplishment, enjoyment, and where those classes will be taking her next. So what we try to do together is to assess the balance between taking some classes that will receive, would be something you're interested in personally and as an individual, but also some classes that would, will help her grow as a person and as a future professional into something that she would maybe enjoy doing in her career. So I think it's that very thin line between making sure that you pursue interests of yours, but you are also considering classes where you will grow, you will learn, and where you see yourself potentially starting a career, not necessarily going for like 50 years down that path, because I think, with the world that we live in, it's not possible anymore. But at least, 2 to 5 years would be good.
Yeah, and just a question: if a student is coming to you to ask if you can support him to find the right path for him, or one of the one thinking to, how many, let's say, meetings or you think it's necessary to go through from a career point of view? I mean, if you analyze the career coach, what do you think a student will need approximately? Because it can be different from student to student, I know, but an average of time to spend to maybe understand.
Yeah, that's a very good question as well. Again, you said it, like, everyone is different. So
Yeah.
there might be some students who have just completely no clue. So, they just have no clue in terms of where they want to go in terms of studies, but also in terms of career. So I think, with this type of student, it's about probably, I would say, 6 to 12 coaching sessions. A coaching session is 1 hour. So I would say 6 to 12 hours. Probably spending, it would be divided in third. Like the first part would be, between 2 to 4 sessions, just assessing, who they are as a person, what is it that they're passionate about, what is it that they want. And then the second part, the second block will be more around exploring the different options and what would that mean for them if they were to pursue one route or the other. And then the final part would be about making sure they take the right action to actually move towards that direction. For students who roughly have an idea, but it's just a matter of clarifying, further the idea or the path they're thinking they want to go on. So it's like almost double checking that they're on the right route, on the right path. I would say between 3 to 6 sessions would probably be enough. So 3 to 6 hours of discussing together, making sure that everything is lined up, making sure that what they've identified so far is the right thing or not, because that's the whole point as well. Double check that everything feels comfortable for them and that they're in the right direction.
And another, this is a curiosity by myself, is somebody's coming to you to have this kind of session, let's say for a transition or to find a job. Do they usually come back to you if they change their mind, or they say, okay, I did that, I just want to change, I want to check if I can do something else, and coming to you again? Or usually when they come to you, it's like they find their path and they just go and they don't come to you anymore?
So if I were to think, I've done that for a little bit than 3 years now. I've worked with more than 150 people.
Wow.
And I had 0 client coming back to me so far. I'm just trying to think. No, I had nobody coming back. I mean, I'm always in touch with the people I've worked with, but usually what happens is they don't need to come back to me because I've already shared with them the tools that they can use on their own to navigate the change that they have to go through, even if they realize they're in the wrong direction and they need to pivot slightly. So, yeah.
Okay. So just another question about this difficult time of COVID. I think you were doing like meetings face to face before COVID, and now did you start having like web chat or video call or whatever to organize your job? I mean, did you stop during COVID or did you go ahead? Did you have any from a student point of view? We work with people that like to go abroad and study, so this market was completely stopped. Many people were doing lesson by WebEx and stuff like that, but it was not the same. And so not many people decide to go ahead with that because in presence is a different, if a different feeling, a different situation, everything is much better because you feel the situation in a different way. So I just wonder, in the case of career coach, did anything change? And if it's changed, did you find any advantage or disadvantage in this, if you can tell us that?
Yep. So first of all, to any student who is, watching or hearing this, I'm very sorry that you had to go through these times because this was just very unfortunate. Like I'm just thinking about, all of the online courses that took place instead of being face to face, all of the joy that you have when you just group with your teammates and you're just next to each other, and all of that was just removed to like a virtual space where people were just staring at their laptops to study. So to all of you who are online and who have been unfortunate in that situation, I'm very sorry about that, and I hope that this year coming you'll have more chance to enjoy the face to face interactions. In my case, I've been incredibly lucky because what I do, indeed, I used to do it face to face, but I managed to move successfully online in the sense that I just needed to have a Wi-Fi connection, a safe space where I could hear my clients, concerns and challenges, and actually work with them online. Because what I do is actually sending some homework that I can just send, online, and then we just, having a conversation. So some of the clients actually were Zoom sick, so we didn't have like a video call. We were not like staring at a laptop. I had them on the phone, like a classic old school phone call, and that was actually very nice because you could just enjoy a walk as you were having the phone call. So from that perspective, that's been good. And also with the COVID, I had more and more people coming to me who realized that being thrown in 100% virtual world was just not working for them. Whether students, but mainly the professionals as well that I work with, women professionals. It's mainly the type of clients I work with. But just having a very very big challenge of managing work-life balance. So I'll be keen, obviously, to hear the views from students when it comes to managing the work-life balance in the sense of studies online versus having a life online through those times. And that has been challenging as well.
Yeah, so it's a difficult time for everybody, students, jobs, people at work. Everything was very, very tough. But
Definitely.
yeah, but do you think it is it's going to be like a possibility to have like career coach in a, like say, in an HR department in the future? I mean, because I think is something that could happen because let's say in the past you were having a job at 25, you were having this job until the end of, I mean, till your pension. But you become a pensioner. But now the market, the job market, it's so fast. So every time I mean, many people you see, there are people are still in the same company for 20, 25 years, but
Yeah.
it's not the case. I mean,
It's an exception. It's not the rule anymore. So things
yeah.
have definitely changed. Yeah.
So I think maybe like a career coach could become a profession in a company. Maybe people that work for 10 years in the same company, they find out that maybe they want to switch, and a career coach could be like a consultant in the company that helps them to find the right path to go to.
I would say so. I would obviously hope so. To be honest, if I were to share my vision, it would mainly be about just the people themselves in the organization. I mean, you have seen as well, I'm assuming, the evolution, of management, where before it was like a really top-down approach. Now we've moved towards more like a collaborative management where, there is a much better open line of communication. Obviously, it depends on any company, industry, like we can't, generalize everything, but we've seen the trend when it comes to how the management have evolved. And we also have, and hopefully more of those will follow the movement, we also have more and more companies now who are empowering their own employees to actually use some coaching tools. And I think this would just be, a great future if within an organization you would have employees who would feel free to coach one another, providing them, a safe space where they could have, an important conversation. They could just bounce ideas off each other and help each other this way. Obviously, I'm more than happy to be an additional support coach, but hopefully if I were to think about the future on how things work, I'm hoping that coaching would just be one of the main tools that, companies and management and, employees and graduates use to actually navigate, their path in an industry or in a company. And the type of work that you're describing, when employees have been working for like 7-10 years in a company and they're looking for potentially a switch and therefore work with a career coach, it's already something that I do. So I already work with companies as a support on the side. I'm not working for them directly. I'm a consultant on the side where they are, offering the opportunity to their employee to stick with me should they want to either, develop their career, grow their career, but also potentially transition career. So hopefully, the next couple of years, they will develop and grow more and more.
Now, another question, because I think career coach could be like a profession that is very interesting in the consultancy. I mean, like Ernst and Young or Capgemini or whatever, because I think there are many. I mean, if a company like Ernst and Young is going to revise process internally in a company, you have also to consider the people, and maybe the people who is in the marketing department maybe is better in, I don't know, sales department. So I think maybe career coach can help you to find out what is the best place for the person in the company. So maybe it will be like be part of this kind of consultancy company could be a solution, because I think there is a part in the consultancy company called HR, but they are much more focused on redefine the process, not the people, yes, but in a different way, not as a career coach, like organizational, not in a feeling of the single person that wants to maybe to change department, see how it works. My question to you is, where do you usually work? I mean, just in Europe or in other country, another country? Or...
So I mainly work, I mean, technically being based in London, I have to say I work in the UK and Europe, even though, I feel still connected, obviously, to my fellow countries and myself being French. So I would say roughly it's probably 40% of the people I work with based in the UK, most of them in London, but still some people as well in the other parts of the UK. I do work 40% in France. So I also have a lot of clients I work with in France, in various cities in France. And then I also have the 20% left, which is people in North America, so mainly Canada and the US, and also in Europe. So I've got Switzerland, Spain, and Italy are countries and people I work with. So very lucky to work across this region.
Another question is, did you find, you will find there's some differences from one country to another. What is your, I mean, what do you think about it? I think in London, many people will be very open to this kind of career coach process, let's say. But did you find difference from country to country? Let's say if you go to England or to France or to US. I did work in the US, and changing job is not so difficult. So it's easy to find another path to jump on and just go. But if you go south, let's say I'm half Italian, so Italian in Italy is not easy to change job, to change and to change completely, because maybe you are not anymore interested in that market. I think in England it's easier. In US it's easy, even if you are not so young anymore. But in Italy, if you start to be in a path, let's say in economics or finance, you have to keep doing that kind. And this is a in this time of life, let's say in this time 2020, it's very difficult, because you need to change, because you cannot keep your job forever. So, and there are so many companies that make redundancy to, because maybe they were big, like banks. They have numbers of employee, and then the employee, they don't need so many employee, because everything is from IT. You need less people, but the people that are redundant, they cannot find another job, because they were in banks, and that they have to keep going there, and then they don't have jobs for that. Do you have any suggestion to people like that they want to change, and they are in not in a nice place, let's say open place like England or West, that you can change job? I don't want to easily, because it's not easy, but it's not so difficult as I think France. Maybe you know better, is similar to Italy. Maybe you start in a path and you go ahead with that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Italy is like that. And Spain, as I'm in Spain, I have to say it's similar to Italy. So, what do you think about this?
I think that's a very, very important point you're making. I mean, 2021, we definitely are still experimenting the different cultures, right? And if I were to give you a spectrum, I would start with probably the US, and then I will go Canada, and then UK, where it's very Anglo-Saxon. In terms of the culture, everything is super dynamic in terms of the market, in terms of how things work, not only in terms of jobs, but also in terms of like buying a property and all of these things. Just things move very, very quickly and easily. It's a very, very dynamic environment. So from that perspective, you said it yourself, it's not easy, but let's say it's just easier to navigate a
Yeah,
career change in this type of
yeah,
culture, type of countries, than what I call the Mediterranean countries. And again, I'm French, so I love my countries, but you could definitely feel the difference in terms of how things work. It's very traditional in its approach. It's really about the type of study that you'll do will influence the type of work you'll do for your entire life. And whilst this could have worked, 10, 20, 30 years ago, in 2021, it's very hard, especially as a student, as a young professional, to keep sticking to that path, because it just doesn't work anymore. So the one thing I would say to people who are indeed started in a certain path and they want to get out of this path is to be super smart. And by being super smart, what I mean is thinking outside the box. Because you are in a culture, country, and environment that is very standardized, you need to make sure you don't follow that same path. So the way you can go about it, couple of different things. First of all, network. Make sure that you start speaking and engaging with people in the field or the industry that you're interested in and you're targeting, because it's also about relationships. And the one thing that I would say, those are the statistics for the UK, and they roughly are applicable to pretty much any country. When it comes to searching for a new role, a new job, 70% of the job market is hidden. What that means is that when you see jobs online and companies recruiting, it's only 30%. So it's just the tip of the iceberg. So for people who feel stuck in a certain way, I would say definitely engaging with people that you want to speak with, who are the decision maker of tomorrow, the company you want to work for. That's one avenue, and it's a very, very important avenue. And the second option as well is to think about qualification, certification, experience that you can gain in parallel of your existing role that you are in at the moment. So, for example, if you are, a young professional and you've started in a certain path, you can potentially volunteer for a charity working in a role that aligns more with what you want to do next. So you could add some additional lines on your CV to justify not only your competencies, but also your willingness to move towards, a different type of role in the future.
Okay,
It's
thank
a
you very
very
much.
different
Very,
point. Yeah.
very
It's a
important
very important thing.
answer.
As you can see, I'm very passionate about. I didn't have any coffee today, but it's something that I'm very passionate about because you're right. It's very traditional its approach, unfortunately. But hopefully, things are changing. Like you've got more and more startups, you've got more and more companies who are aware that this model doesn't work anymore in the world that we live in. So, things are starting to change. Like they're starting to change, but they're just taking longer than countries like, the UK or North America.
And another question is not linked into student, but maybe to people that maybe want to do this registration afterward. Let's say if somebody wants to change job, do you have an age that it's possible to do it and an age that you cannot change anymore? Or like a suggestion, it's not it's not something you write and what you say is completely right wrong. Is your opinion is if you want to change job, it could be possible when you will be 45 or 48, or you cannot change when you are 57. I don't know, this is a question like.
You mean, just to make sure I've got this right, you mean, is there an age at which you should change job? Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yes,
So I do, oh,
an
sorry.
age that you can change job, but a possibility to change a job. I mean, maybe you will have a dream job when you are, I don't know, 57, let's say 58. Do you think it could be possible to change at that age, or it's too late, or there is like a certain age that it's possible and it's feasible, but it's not feasible when you are 58 or 59 years old?
Very, very good question. I do believe that you are your own limit. So if you are, 57, 58 and you want to change job, I think you can. If you've been 6 months in the job and you already want to change, I think you can. I think what's really important is not necessarily about sticking to how old are you or how long have you been in this job or this industry for. It's about why you want to do it and be in a position to justify the why you want to make that change to the future job or the future industry that you're targeting. So I really strongly believe that age should not be part of the equation. I think it's more around the willingness, the drive, and the interest that you have in this one.
Yeah.
So I would say go for it.
I have a last question. Okay, if it's not the age that limits you to decide to go for the job of your dream, sometimes there is another thing that stops you to go ahead to find another job, a new job. It's the money. I mean, if you have a career, very good career, and then maybe you need to change because you are redundant, so they push you out from the market. You have to find another job. It's not easy to find the same job or to get the same money. So maybe you decide to. In this case, it's easy to change because you need to. But if you are in a position very well recognized, good position, is and maybe you are not happy because that job is not the job that you like, because you start in a way and you are stuck there. So there are people that maybe they did have the power to change even in this situation, or it's very difficult. Most of the people when they're doing the transition is because they are redundant, or they are having a very good, let's say, a sales manager or director or something like that. Do you have any experience on this situation?
So if I understood your question correctly, I do come across some clients who come to me and they've worked, for 5, 7, 10 years in that industry. And when they were students, when they started, when they did the studies, this is exactly what they had in mind, They managed to earn exactly the money they wanted. They had the title they wanted, and they've just hit a glass ceiling, either because in terms of the company or the industry they're in, they can't grow anymore, or the glass ceiling is actually that they don't want to earn more money to trade more of their time because they realize work-life balance is important, or the ceiling can sometimes be that now that they've got the money, now they've got the title, they realize they don't have the impact or the purpose or the meaning that is now missing for them. So I do come across a lot of people who, yeah, they had the resources, they had everything that on paper they wanted, but they actually courageously decided to make the transition because they realized that what they wanted 10 years ago is not what they want now. Like the priorities when it comes to how their career feeds them as an individual, as a professional, is not what they want anymore. You know, how they saw it is just not aligned with them anymore. And on the other hand, to go back to the first part of your question, I also came across professionals, as you said, who unfortunately have made redundant and therefore made a decision based on emotion to go exactly for the same role that they had, even though it was not necessarily 100% fulfilling. And they ended up in that vicious cycle that, 2, 3 months after starting that new role, they were lucky enough to secure one during the pandemic. They realized they were still not happy. So they had to do the same process again to take a step back, think and ask themselves, ooh, what is it that I actually want? Not like what I'm good at, but what do I want to do with my career that really, makes me happy in the morning? So hopefully that answers your question in terms of giving,
Yeah,
two different
yeah,
types of scenarios on how people have been navigating that. It definitely is never easy, but the one thing I would say is never make a decision on your career based on emotions only and based on what people expect of you or society expects of you. Always take a time to take a step back. Like you don't see it, but I've got thousands of notebooks around. Just even like, grabbing a pen and paper and just writing down, what do I want to do? Like what yourself want to do in a very calm, rational way. And then think about what is it that you want to achieve in terms of salary, in terms of recognition, in terms of responsibilities, and put all of them down. And then once you start navigating the different options available to you in your career, assess whether or not, the job being offered to you ticks those boxes, or if it doesn't, are you happy to make that compromise? Yes or no?
yeah. Very last question, this one. To you. Did you find a difference to people? I mean, the approach of the people because of COVID. Did you find that the approach of changing job, considering that the job they were in was was not the one that they were expecting, and they didn't realize until COVID arrived?
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. I had a lot of people I work with who had a certain routine before COVID where their job was not necessarily 100% fulfilling on a daily basis, but because of everything that was happening in parallel, the commute to work, walking or cycling or whatever they were doing, and then the activities after work and the things that they were able to do on the weekends and everything were just giving them the right balance. But then once COVID hit, it was just sitting at home with a laptop and nothing else to actually, unplug the brain and, do something that they really enjoy. So the balance was not a balance anymore. It was completely different. And definitely some people that I obviously still am working with, they were not in a rush to leave their job, but they really realized that they couldn't stay in that type of, path anymore. They had to make a change because it was no longer viable for them. And at the same time, I also had, so not clients I work with, but professionals that I know personally who actually really enjoyed their company and their job during COVID because their company gave them a lot of opportunity to work even more flexibly and make sure they had everything they need at home to make life easy. So I think what COVID did, not only to people and their jobs, but to also companies, it really showed the true light of how business treat their employees. And for companies who unfortunately didn't have a robust people culture, it probably accelerated some people going away from those type of businesses. But for companies who really care about their employees, making sure they had everything they need, they care about them, try to create a team dynamic even remotely, it really made sure that the people stayed in those positions. It ensured that was very positive from that perspective as well.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for the interview, for your time,
You're
and
very
I
welcome.
hope it can help students or other people that were listening to this recorded interview that will be on Help Culture in YouTube channel. It's a YouTube channel with independent to all interview regarding students, university or career coach or whatever. All all the, let's say it's about students and what they're searching to go and study or to go to work or have information about their area, let's say. So thank you much, and I hope to have and everybody, if anybody wants to have any information, they can write to Help Culture. There is a website info@culture.com, and if you want to speak to Anais, they can send an email to us and we can forward you. Okay.
That'll be my pleasure.
Okay. Thank you very much, and
Thank you so much, Deborah.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.